How's it going, Carol?
Quite good. Yeah, quite not bad.
You're feeling better?
Yes. For the viewers, I had a cold recently.
Yeah, and you lost your voice.
Yeah. Now it's back. So
Okay, today's call agenda for context is just a summary to get people up to date on where we're at as a community and what we're doing with our various projects and who is leading those projects. So it's just a sort of a formal way to make the information more symmetrical between the people who are working and the sort of sideliners, the community that's just taking in the information and trying to see what's going on. So we just have, it's not long, we just have really 4 slides to go over. So this should be a quick update. And it's just me and Carol this time because it was a last second short notice thing, but I figured we need to get something out there to update the community. Because you said it yourself about blogging. If you don't write a blog about something, it never happened, right?
yeah,
I'm leaning into that by getting a video out there because maybe at least if someone needs to see what's going on, they can just watch this. As of today, the community is still small but strong and focused on a singular mission, which is to get Ergon adopted by the masses. And there's really 2 primary ways of going about this. One way is getting more liquidity in the exchanges themselves and on other various blockchains like Solana, so that the crypto liquidity can come into Ergon. And then on the other side, we have more of what Carol Licho is focusing on, which is the ground and real world adoption, like creating actual marketplaces where things are priced in Ergon and getting other anarchist communities and local communities and friends and businesses aware and involved in this so that it has a real world use case aside from just, price speculation, right? So that's where we're at currently. And then I'm going to hand it off to Carol or Licho for Fedsy. And he's going to give a quick summary of what Fedsy is and where the progress is at on it. So you can go ahead.
yeah. I've been working on making a bazaar, decentralized marketplace that would compete with centralized marketplaces like Amazon,
And
eBay, and Etsy. Yeah, because
Etsy, that's where you got the name
yeah.
from?
So yeah, it's called Fedsy because it's federated like Etsy. It's probably a temporary name because someone might have
a temporary name, but yeah, sometimes you end up needing to pivot and make a name for yourself, right?
yeah.
Because it's right now it's like calling a McDonald's competitor like Whack-Donald's or something. But you recently did a presentation on Fedsy to an anarchist group. How did that go?
Yeah, it went great. Yeah, it went great. The group is called Artel, and they're like a mutual aid society. And yeah, and they have many things they do. Now they're doing like radio network. Yeah, and they have small
Okay, so are they
sticker
doing
business.
Are they doing something like a mutualistic co-op where it's like consensual cooperation and
Yeah.
resources?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. But they are also like doing goods and services. Their motto is to have work free of capitalism or something like that. I am not sure exactly, but yeah, their idea is to have an actual fair place where you can like make a productive effort to do something, and that might involve also like getting paid for your work because nobody ever said that you ought to be doing things for completely free. That right now they are pricing like when they're pricing for like friends and other anarchist groups, they're pricing like voluntary. How much you think you should pay that you pay that. Like when they're making stickers or something,
Like
like basically you
true
just
free
contribute
market,
something.
not
Yeah, but they got interested in Fedsy, and like they will probably be helping me with it, and maybe it will be like official
yeah,
Artel project, like
perfect.
something under their wings,
Yeah,
let's say.
that seems like some really good synergy. How far are you from this collective, like physical distance wise, like kilometers? How far are you?
Oh, most of them is on the other side of Poland,
Oh,
unfortunately. Yeah, they're far away from me,
okay.
but yeah,
Did you have to
unfortunately,
did you have to drive there, or did
like
you
in person.
when you did your, or was the presentation online?
It was online, yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
it was
okay.
online. We just met on the internet.
Okay. And for the listeners, what is Fedsy's connection with Ergon, our layer one cipher cache and blockchain network?
The connection is that there are going to be the currency on Fedsy, because
Aim to be like the only currency or the default currency?
I want to make it the only currency because it's a no setup. It's a no setup style. You just run software and you can do it, right? You don't need, I
But for
don't
like
know, a bank account.
for user experience and adoption's sake, would you ever consider accepting fiat on the network, or do you want it to be just purely crypto? Because then in that case, like we're gonna end up with people who don't hold
With what?
Ergon but want to use the network.
Yeah, I think the fact that it's a network means that people will have other places to spend,
Mm.
because I want there to be many stores. So you will be. I'm thinking of a closed system.
Okay, so you're
Uh,
thinking of like like a circular economy for Ergon,
yeah,
where the
yeah. That's what I'm thinking about. Yeah,
network effects create the liquidity for it. Okay,
yeah, and
I think that's fair.
essentially,
Because otherwise you're spending time like connected to the old system where you're looking to like peacefully divorce from that, right?
yeah, it is loosely coupled to like external world by those crypto exchanges, but I imagine people who would use Fedsy won't be the same kind that is able very much
Right.
use crypto exchanges, because like I'm aiming at the Etsy like crowd,
Yeah,
the like artisans, artists, and small craftsmen, people who do such things. They usually hate crypto. I imagine they will unfortunately be stuck within the system when they join,
yeah.
but as the ecosystem develops, it will get
Mhm.
easier and easier to actually extend beyond that, and
Yeah,
finally get the off and on ramps to actually connect to the external world.
correct. Yeah. The critical point is going to be having on-ramps and off-ramps that are user-friendly and can handle the volume of demand.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I have a question. So it's going to be inevitably still connected to centralized aspects such as like crypto exchanges, just because unfortunately, that's how the space is today. But would you consider incentives and disincentives for the users who choose to like have more decentralized and self-custody behavior in the marketplace, a rebate for people who aren't using the exchanges? Or do you think that's too complex? Or
I don't really know. Oh, I can't really imagine what you mean here. I don't know how it would look like, something like this. How do you even know? No, because I imagine every single instance would have its own non-custodial wallet, right? It will be a wallet will be built in the software. So
But that wallet would then send it to exchange. I'm saying like if you're trying to create a closed system, if things are like exiting your system, you would be able to know that, right? Because of the transaction history on the blockchain.
yeah, I don't think I will have enough power over the network because everyone will be running their own software
Okay.
in a decentralized manner, and I don't know if I mean I'm out of control here.
You're saying like at the
I
end of
mean
the
I can't
day,
place.
it doesn't really need extra incentives for that to happen. It'll just happen.
Yeah, I imagine that people will just stay within the system by staying out of the ugly world of cryptocurrencies and exchanges,
Yeah.
just because like, that's the kind of people that we're aiming at here.
Okay.
Uh,
So you have a specific
because you know
target
those are not.
audience of like people who just have an aversion to stuff like centralized exchanges.
Could you repeat? I think something broke.
You have a
The
target audience in mind that has a natural disdain or aversion to centralized systems like exchanges.
I don't think it's about centralization. I'm aiming at no coiners, right? So those will mostly
Oh,
be just no coiners who have never used an exchange. They can learn, but they will probably
okay.
resist
Then
from that. So
I
that's
guess my real
a friction.
question is what do you, in your own words, what would convince a no coiner to move from to use Fedsy instead of Etsy? Like, what's the benefit there?
I think the biggest benefit is the ActivityPub protocol, what that it will be using, and the keyword of enshittification. It's a very popular word on Mastodon right now.
What is that?
It's enshittification. It's a process in which centralized services, by having you in control, just make your experience worse and worse, like your experience with their product, in order to extract more money from you and
Right.
from their
Okay.
other customers.
Okay.
So it's just a
In the
shitty
way
strategy.
that in the way that let's say like Apple, right? Apple for the users, I'm just trying to give a analogy. Apple releases new iPhones every year and they got caught having the having a basically a time bomb on phones so that over time they would intentionally have worse performance so that people would buy the new phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Example of it? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's exactly this. And they have network effect. They have their ecosystem that locks in a customer. And once you go into Apple ecosystem, you have those interoperating devices,
Right.
and you like have to be using their products for everything because otherwise it's not compatible, right? And you
Right,
can't
right.
just
They
hack
go
it
for
in.
like a patented monolithic solution where you need right now the adapters. I don't have a USB port on my MacBook, and I think that's insane, right?
Yeah, and the recent version of their operating system won't let you run unsigned binaries.
Oh, could you explain that?
You to put the to like if I was to give you a binary of Ergon node, then I would have to go through them and get them to sign the binary, get their approval. Otherwise, you can't run my software.
Okay. So it's a permission aspect.
And yeah, they basically control who can and cannot produce software for your device. You're not in control of your own device.
Okay. So is this, yeah, so shoot. Is it more if if Etsy was Apple, is Fedsy more like Linux?
Yeah, essentially that. And I'm seeing a lot of momentum in the ActivityPub protocol. New applications just pop out, and there's critical mass. There's 1 million
Okay,
people
great.
on
Yeah.
that network,
I think
and I want to tap into this.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I think there's a delay. But yeah, I think we gave a good bird's eye view or like coverage of what Fedsy is, where it's at, what the benefits are. And okay, go ahead.
One more thing, okay? There will be a common search. That's what I want to use the ActivityPub for, and you will be able to see Fedsy style from other ActivityPub protocol implementations. Like you will be able to see like my stall from Mastodon, from probably PeerTube, or and like Miski and other implementations like Lemmy. There's a ton of them.
okay.
So
saying
all
like-
of those users,
Like you merge the user bases.
yeah, you merge the user bases, yeah, essentially.
Awesome.
And yeah, so that's, and you won't have to make an account to buy anything like for additional trust or to make a review. You will make a review of a product with your real account from social media,
Right.
from the Decentralized social media. Yeah, and there will be a common search that you will be able to search like you have on Amazon or like on Etsy. You have a search, you type something, and 1,000 of products pop out, not like on a single alone internet store, like online store that you have like free products on, and you go to this website specifically to access those free products. Now people will be able to access this from elsewhere.
Okay, so yeah,
Right.
that makes a lot. This is like this is taking those silos, right? And
Yeah.
making just unifying them into a one marketplace. So it's a one-stop shop, really.
Yeah, exactly.
And on the point of the social media accounts, like I think personally that's one of the hardest or like the biggest deterrence or whatever. Not really sure what the best word is, but one of the biggest problems or setbacks with like user experience on the internet is that I have to have a an account for everything. I have to have a Twitter account. I have to have an Amazon account, and it really just makes me have to, and Reddit, and it really, and what I'm getting at is in regards to reputation.
Yeah.
It really makes it like I have every time I join a network, my reputation starts at zero. When a good user experience, it would be like transferable, right? Let's say I have a good reputation on Twitter, that should be represented if I was doing an online store, because then it makes the store and the quality and execution like a little more trustworthy because I'm a trustworthy person like on other sites.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that has always been a missing part of the normal internet experience. I know you have shown me like on Mastodon and stuff, they're doing things like that where you can integrate your other accounts.
Mm-hmm.
But those are more like those networks are still fringe. They're not mainstream yet.
Yeah, I think they will be getting more popular. It's the ball is already, it's not already snowballing, because everyone that is starting a new social media app can just tap to 1 million people user base. It's something. It's not the size of Facebook or Twitter, but it's nothing to sneeze on, right?
And I think the advantages of being there is what would keep it continuing to snowball after a certain like critical mass, right? Because the people who are on there are benefiting from having access to all the other social media accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess we didn't explain it. What is Mastodon? for people who are listening?
Yeah, so Mastodon is a social media website built on top of ActivityPub protocol, and it's a decentralized protocol just designed for social media. There's no consensus. It's just servers talking to servers and learning what someone have said.
It's like gossip.
Yeah, it's like gossip. Do you know maybe Noster?
It sounds familiar, but I don't know it by heart.
Yeah, so it's another attempt at that.
Okay.
Or Blue Sky, it's also a different protocol, but they have their issues.
Okay.
Mastodon has its issues as well.
So
I'm not
Mastodon
gonna
is
say it doesn't because it's
sorry.
quite terrible. But yeah,
And
something is either terrible or nobody uses it, and nobody says it's terrible.
yeah. I guess that's why Facebook and Instagram and Twitter are so popular, because everyone just talks about how terrible they are. But
Yeah, I think it's a sign that something is being used, right?
yeah.
Because
Except-
nobody would be saying it's terrible if it wasn't even
Right.
used.
Right. But if it was more, you know, decentralized in a way, less
Yeah.
people would complain, right? If it was less, I don't know, monolithic or like pyramidical, I don't know, but less of a hierarchy in the control of the user experience and the front end.
Hmm.
You know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I'm not really sure if I know if you can.
It's that word that you were trying to explain to me earlier. That long word that I used the analogy of Apple and their iPhones.
Enshittification.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm saying like if that wasn't an issue, then people would be using it and not really complaining, because it would actually be like an excellent user experience that just gets better and better instead of worse and worse.
I'd love for it to
Yeah.
be like that. Yeah.
Because I
But
actually I've had problems with iPhone, and I've tried to file submissions, like recommendations on how to improve their software in user interface, right? And it obviously never gets to the top, like the people who are actually making changes.
or sometimes it gets to the top, but you simply don't understand that they want it to be bad. They often want it to be bad.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
because their goals are completely different than yours.
I think you're at like a handicap in life if you're actually trying to solve issues that the people at top don't want to be solved. But I guess I'm preaching to the choir there. But oh yeah, my last question was what was that protocol that you said Fedsy and Mastodon are built on?
ActivityPub.
ActivityPub?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's like I guess, I don't know. I'm not technical, but is that essentially like the base layer or like the substrate for all these protocols to be able to communicate with each other?
Yeah, it's essentially you can publish stuff and you can like, comment, and just something designed to be a social network. Yeah, it's an abstraction of a social network, basically. It's all just one network. It's called Fediverse,
Right.
and like different applications are simply interfaces to the same network. They have their own additional sub protocols, but they are
Right.
basically the same network.
Okay. So it really is conceptually similar to how Ethereum introduced Solidity so that people could just focus on applications and not have to spin up a new blockchain for every application. Is this just like a generalized system so that people can just focus on like the app layer?
I think it's even more like just wallets to the same blockchain. You can have different user experience on the
Mhm.
same network, on the exact same network. I think it's comparable to crypto wallets. Like you can be using Electrum wallet to have super great control over your coins and whatnot, be able to run plugins and stuff, but you can also be using like a super simple calorie, yeah, right.
Right,
You can
right.
be using calorie, you can be using oregano, and have different user experience on the same network. I think it's most similar to that
Okay,
scenario.
good. Perfect. All right, great. I think that pretty much wraps it up. I don't want to spend too long on this slide because I feel like we could talk about it all night.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I
sorry.
still have things I could say about it, but I'm just gonna cut myself off for time's sake. So I'm gonna get to the next one, and I guess this is where I'm gonna do a lot of the talking, and I don't want to spend too much time on it because there's not much to talk about. It's mostly just plans, right? I guess without further ado, myself or Jay and myself. So Jay is a community member and developer that we've had for a few years, and he just came back quite recently and started helping again with, I guess, a new way of interacting with Ergon as an asset and just a new strategy on how to get it adopted, right? And this goes back to what I was talking about, how the flip side of your method of getting real world adoption by making marketplaces that only accept Ergon, we're focused on trying to assimilate somewhat to a degree with the crypto space to try to get it adopted by crypto native people. And we're
Yeah.
doing that by appealing to what crypto native people want. And what they want, I can't really mince words here. They want gambling for starters, whether they will admit it or not. Crypto
Yeah,
people love gambling.
essentially. I
So
think that's fair.
yeah, so I guess we wanted to bridge to the most degen blockchain with the most volume and liquidity and like best user experience, and that was obviously Solana, right? Just so much cheaper than Ethereum without having to go on to layer 2 base like you do with Ethereum. And yeah, fees are cheap. User experience is amazing because it's just brought in so many people who just previously were not involved in crypto. And I think that's because they make it really simple and straightforward. And like I said, it's the most degen chain because it's where all of the pumped up fun and meme coins are really popping off. It became an inversion where Solana was trying to be the next Ethereum, and now it's the other way around, where Ethereum and Base, more so Base, the layer 2 that Coinbase made for Ethereum, now they're trying to be the next Solana. They're riding the coattails of Solana's meme coin craze. Solana really has been like de facto the best degen gambling chain out there. We picked that, and after a few days of debating with the community, and it was nice to see that there was a lot of participation in this debate. I'm sure you remember, but there like a decent amount of our core community members gave a lot of their opinions and feedback on
Yeah.
how best to bridge to Solana. And we just came to the conclusion that running a two-way bridge has, no matter how you try to do it, inevitably has these trust assumptions and this concern of the bridge being hacked.
Yeah.
And I realized that puts too much pressure and too much value on the bridge itself. Because if the bridge breaks, then everything.
Everyone falls down to the lava.
Yeah. And I don't think that it's just not a very crypto. It's just it it just doesn't really align with crypto's true philosophy of minimal trust assumptions and
Yeah.
no trusted third parties, right? At the end of the day, it's about
Yeah, I
trusted
imagine
third
that.
parties.
Yeah, that
So
exactly. I think I agree with you. Sorry.
Yeah, so we went with the one-way bridge, which is super ballsy in my opinion because it means you're burning tokens, and that sort of like psychologically messes with you because you think you're just like burning value.
Yeah.
But realistically, it's like a permanent proof of stake. It's like proof of burn essentially is proof of work, but a token.
Yeah, it's like a teleportation in
Teleports value in the same way like that they tele and like to an extent they like do the same thing. They
yeah.
convert electrical value into crypto value, digital scarce collectibles because we can't really call it e-cash. But yeah, so I think it's a weird thing for people to get used to, but it's such a simple and elegant way of bridging. And
Indeed, it's super elegant. It's incredibly elegant.
yeah, and what was the other thing? And yeah, and at the end of the day, anyone can validate for themselves that there was a burn and a mint. So
Yes.
there are no trusted third parties. Okay, so we have officially bridged to Solana, and Jay was the first to send Ergons to the incinerator. I think he sent at least 2 so far, maybe more. And we have a liquidity pool on Solana. And it's just interesting because now instead of people needing to go on ZegX, to many, it's an obscure exchange that they've never heard of. And a lot of people these days in crypto are not willing to go through any hoops to buy an asset. They just
Yeah.
want a contact address so that they can ape into it without doing any research. And I mean,
I just checked, and the burn address is the third address on the rich list.
oh, nice. That's
It's 2.729. You can round it to 173,
yeah,
almost to 137.
that's amazing.
Yeah, 3.5% of the entire supply.
You know what? I think we might have inadvertently started a new trend with this because I know one-way bridges aren't new, but they weren't popular either. But the week we did that, the week we did the one-way bridge, Matt from Nervos, the executive director at Nervos, he was tweeting about this exact thing. He said
Nice.
a burn, like a burn one-way bridge is the only like true way to have interoperability. And
Yeah.
so we definitely inspired someone. And hopefully that percolates through the ecosystem. But yeah, suffice it to say, we got a functional bridge going, which is a huge achievement. Now, like I said, we can tap into the Solana liquidity and ecosystem, which is huge. So yeah, it's a big win for user experience, and also it'll be interesting to see the arbitrage between the prices of Ergon on or XRG on ZegX and Ergon on Solana. So that's going to be a fun ride. Second is the Treasury. We really just took first steps into setting up the Treasury. Shardul set it up, and he's taken my address, my wallet, and Jay's wallet. So the 3 of us are part of the initial multi-sig participants or co-owners. And the
Nice.
plan is to the Treasury is really a multi-pronged attempt to accumulate wealth as a incubator and a ecosystem accelerator, and like a decentralized organization or a decentralized cooperative, right? At the end of the day, we're just mutuals who want to pool resources and spend those resources intelligently and hopefully not make poor decisions with the funds, but I don't think we will. I think we're pretty intelligent people. So
Yeah, I think that
yeah,
too.
I'm not really worried about it. But at the end of the day, we'll just have maybe like a 60-40 rule of 60% holdings in Ergon and XRG, and then the 40 can be like in crypto, where we just siphon off these crypto gains and just keep converting it into Ergon as it goes up.
Yeah, and you need to have something for the other side of the liquidity, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
If you're going to have to be market,
For the pools and everything. Exactly.
yeah, you'll have to hold some of it in other assets.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a future discussion to have is like how many pools do we really need at each stage, right? Because launching like 100 pools right now when there's no demand doesn't make sense, but like having more pools is always better so that there's more liquidity between different assets so it's not concentrated on one asset like Solana or Sol.
Are there like I suppose there are, but do you know on Solana are there like those AMMs that have multiple assets in pool? I don't know, balancer style.
Balancer there has to be, I'm sure there is. I have
Yeah, I imagine because that's pretty cool. You can put $100 of worth of Ergon and $20 worth of
Yeah,
USDC,
right.
USDT, and so on, and you have five assets, and you have more liquidity in Ergon, but those add up to the sum of the rest, right? So you still have $100 backing that. So the pool automatically gets rebalanced, and you essentially that's equivalent to if you had $100 in one asset and $100 in the second asset. So so you're just increasing the if those others can be perfectly rebalanced by the market, then it's good. Then it's just equivalent to having this exact same liquidity, just spread out over other assets. Yeah, you're not sacrificing anything. Like you won't be able to afford that much. No, you are able to afford exactly that much of liquidity, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
looks exactly the same. I have that on paper. I have that proven mathematically that it's equivalent.
Yeah. The Treasury makes perfect sense. It's just a way of getting a mutualistic co-op on-chain thing going for Ergon team and then the token and DeFi planning. Okay, the token is still super conceptual, but essentially it's a fixed supply utility token slash meme coin. So this token is basically gonna represent more, for lack of a better phrase, like just shares of the treasury and of the Ergonites project and ecosystem, essentially. It's going to have economics that actually capture that value. But yeah, our plan was to just have a minting rate of one Ergon gets you the fixed amount of these tokens. And the tokens are fixed supply. I don't know. We might have to do a bonding curve for supply distribution. But see, this is what I mean by conceptual. We don't even know what we're doing yet. But it's just, I guess I just want to announce that we're working on that. And at the end of the day, it's going to be like the fixed supply asset that people can invest in the way that people invest in traditional cryptos like Bitcoin and Ethereum. That way, we don't just have a stable eCash, but we also have this investment vehicle, which is what crypto users actually want. the current user base actually wants an investment vehicle, not eCash, but it's a different
Nice.
conversation. And DeFi planning. So I have a few projects on mind that I want Jay to work on forking the code or at least reinterpreting the code for Solana's programming language, because these are Ethereum protocols, but some of them might be redeployed on Solana, so I'll have to check. But basically a governance-free stablecoin, which would be inspired by Liquidity because they were the first people to do that. So it's essentially like a MakerDAO without a governance token, which is a really daring but profound direction to take crypto, because crypto with less governance, if there's a real serious issue, we're going to have to fork the network. But on the other hand, not having human interference makes it less corruptible.
Yeah.
I think that would be an interesting part of the ecosystem. And then bonds protocol, which is an Olympus style scheme, bond market, so that we can basically sell bonds for Ergon, and then they hit a maturity rate, so they get a yield, and that allows us to get cash flow, which we will use to fund the operations and grow. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's not that complicated. It's just a standard that exists on Ethereum for releasing bonds and what the different maturity rates would be. But I think the key takeaway is that this allows us to get accrue protocol owns liquidity, so that like
Yeah.
we take this money in and then we lock it into the liquidity pools. And that way it's the liquidity isn't jumping in and out because it's coming from somewhere else. It's being provided by us. It'll stay there. That's the concept of protocol owned liquidity. DEXs, this is just another part of solving protocol owned liquidity. There's cool incentives from Spooky Swap that I won't get into, but just suffice it to say that's much better incentives to protect pools from mercenary capital.
Nice. Yeah.
And then a pegless stablecoin. So this is it's just here in Liquidity, we would have a stable coin that's actually pegged to the dollar, which has its pros and cons, right? Obviously, the dollar is like the most liquid, reliable, stable asset in the world. So it's a good thing to peg to, but it's also like prone to inflation, and stable coins actually perpetuate the control that the Federal Reserve has on the economy. And that's a huge downside to the trend of creating stable coins. So I was thinking of a pegless stable, and that would be inspired by Spot from Ampleforth. Or another option would be this, I'm forgetting their name, but I'll come back to it when I remember. But there was another pegless stable coin on Ethereum, and they use like control theory from engineering to maintain the price, which I thought was really cool. And then finally, like Pendle is it's a AMM with a different kind of a time decay based curve, because it deals with yields.
That's what? Could you repeat?
It tokenizes yield. So you basically say I'm lending crypto, and in return I'm getting yield for lending
Okay.
out crypto. This takes that yield and makes an asset out of it. So it separates the base asset from the yield and creates a token for that, and on their own AMM. But I don't know the specifications because I'm not versed in this stuff, but the AMM, these yield tokens there's like a time decay factor because eventually the yield goes to zero. It's like a custom AMM built specifically for yield tokens, not regular tokens. I think it has a bright future because it just lets people leverage their yields and trade their yields.
Yeah.
It's a normal thing that happens in traditional finance, so I don't see why it wouldn't happen in crypto. And yeah, it would let people
Yeah, I think
leverage their
it's
money
brilliant. Yeah.
within our system, within the Ergonite's closed system, right? So that we want like a good user experience where people are like maximizing their yields. And that's it, really.
Totally. Yeah. All right, awesome. Awesome.
The next thing, I guess, just to piggyback off the last slide, is we're changing our messaging from me and Jay and I's strategy for our project, which is that we're not calling it Ergon like a stable coin or anything like that. But we're gonna refer to it as a reserve currency for DeFi projects. And that's just a marketing decision that we made. Because stablecoin
Okay.
is a broken name and it's just incompatible with what we actually are building.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense, even though it was a good faith effort to try to prevent people from thinking that Ergon would just perpetually moon. But I think it just confused people even more because then they saw a volatile stablecoin and they're like, what the heck is this?
Yeah. It was like it went up 12 times, and you're shitting me. It's not a stablecoin, right?
Yeah. So I think that was an easy decision. And then finally, last slide is the narrative it goes beyond Jay and I's Ergonites project. So it's more of a direct addressment of the narrative and marketing for the Ergon protocol. And that's that instead of calling it cryptocurrency, we're gonna start referring to it as cipher cash because it's a peaceful divorce from the narrative of crypto because crypto comes with its own connotations, both good and bad, but I think it's too confusing for people if they again, it's like a misnomer at this point, like calling Ergon a cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Cryptocurrencies are things like Bitcoin with a fixed supply. And
Yeah, this is what people understand with this word, right? When they hear cryptocurrency, they don't think digital cash. They think, digital bonds scheme with constant gains, and so on, right?
Yeah, it just creates this image in people's heads of what someone is talking about, or even who they are as a person. Like when you say, "Oh, I'm into crypto," they're like, "Oh, this is like a gambling nutcase."
Yeah.
So I should just ignore everything they have to say. So
Yeah, essentially.
So yeah, we're just trying to disassociate ourselves. No shade towards the crypto industry. They've sparked like a great movement that has made strides in self of ownership, like true ownership of assets and
Yeah.
peer-to-peer economies. But at this point, yeah, being associated with them name-wise is just it's not a good strategy. We've tried it and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It pushes away both people, the no coiners and the crypto maxis. We need our own identity, and Cipher Cash is that identity. And I think
Yes,
it's a good head nod to the cypherpunk movement, right? Because this
Yeah.
is our whole philosophy or our whole ideology. I don't know what to call it, what the correct term is, but it's like this is a true peer-to-peer eCash in the way that like reusable proof of work was intended without some imaginary like hard cap limit on the supply.
Yes, I agree with 100% of what you're saying.
Great. All right. That sums it up. I think it was a great discussion and summary. It probably ran a little too long because we like to ramble about this stuff because we are passionate. But yeah, guess if any final words from you? I don't have anything else to say.
I don't think I have anything like that wasn't already said.
Okay.
Nothing new.
Yeah. So I guess the final message would be a call to action, which is follow Ergon Coin on Twitter. Go to ergon.moe for our website, and maybe even join the Telegram channels because we have two at this point, like the main Ergon community and then the Ergonites project. So
Yeah.
just follow all of that, stay in touch or stay in tune, get in touch if you have anything that you want to do or contribute to our community and our movement because we're small and growing and there's just a lot of space for more ideas and more people and
Yeah.
we just want to nurture that. All right. So just stop. Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah. Good night.
Stop recording.